Mike Major with us, without the S, of course. But I want to have a sit down with him here. We are at the Extreme Mustang Makeover in Franklin, Tennessee. And I was able to snag him up here and able to sit here and visit with him. And we want to hear a little bit about where Mike came from and where he got his start and kind of on his journey and his horsemanship journey. And so where did you start at and where are you from? Where did it all begin all the way back to your youth?
Well, I was born in Miles City, Montana. My folks were originally from New Mexico, and then Dad moved back to New Mexico, sold a ranch in Montana, bought another ranch in New Mexico, and we moved back down there. But my whole life has been with horses and cattle. I mean, cattle business is our main business. It always has been. Dad raised a lot of horses, and so I guess it was 7 years old, I broke my first colt. And it was a colt that had never been touched, never even seen anybody, which was different, but they snubbed you and such as that, and get 4 foot the colt, get a halter on them and so on. But, and then they'd snub him around and I'd be on the fence and they'd bring him by there and just have me get on his back and start going until they thought I had him going good enough, and that snub horse would just get out of the pen, and there you'd be, But I was always kind of all of us kids. There were 6 of us kids in my family, and we all cowboyed rode every day. That was my older brother and sister were homeschooled, and so we, as soon as they'd get done with their lessons, we were horseback and gone the rest of the day if we weren't having to work cattle. So it was just, it's a fun life, actually. We were horse races. We were terrible, and...
You match raced?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, back then, we were, I was probably 4 and 5 years old, but... every time we'd get away from Dad would say, "You kid, quit running them horses, and racing them horses. As soon as we get over the ridge, boy, the horse race would be on, where he couldn't see us." And I remember one time my brother said, Dad got some new field glasses, because I was trying to instigate a horse race. And he said, "No, Dad got some new field glasses. He can see through the hills now." I was always wanting to run the horses. Uh-huh. And so when I was 8 years old, I started riding race horses at match races and such as that, and rode till I got too big. At 13, I grew too much, but rode for a lot of money. I remember one race back when I was probably 10 years old, for $20,000. Back then, that was a lot of money, mm-hmm. I trained the horses, exercised the horses, the race horses and such as that. He had some horses on the big tracks also. Uh-huh. I was too young to get a jockey's license to be on the big tracks, and time I got old enough, I was way too big. But rode a lot of race horses. They they'd fly me in to different places. They'd have match races going on at different places, and they would put me on an airplane and fly me there. And I thought I was pretty hot.
That's crazy.
But at 8 years old, I broke 3 more colts. At 9, I don't know, probably broke 6 or 7, and then time I was 12, I was breaking most of the ranch colts, and then started a lot of the colts that went to the racetrack also, because mm-hmm. Dad had a set of straight thoroughbred and race mares that he kept separate. Then he had the ranch, kind of just ranch bred mares or whatever, But that's what we did. Dad was a roper, and we rodeoed.
Okay.
All of our, anytime we had time to rodeo, we would rodeo. And I think by the time I was probably 10 years old, I think Dad had 3 different ranches. They were 72 sections, 2 townships.
In Montana?
No, in New Mexico.
New Mexico, then.
We moved back to New Mexico, yep. And so had a lot of country, and then we crossed a lot of cattle across from Mexico and yearling cattle, and we would summer them and then sell them in the fall, And so we had a ranch right on the Mexico border down there south of Deming, New Mexico, and so in a feedlot, preconditioned feedlot. So yes, our main business was cattle business, and that's what we did. And the horses were, well, they were just part of the cattle business. We used the horses to work the cattle. That country was big, tough country. I don't even think they had four-wheelers back then,
Probably not.
And if they did, we sure didn't know about them. But so we just do everything on horseback, and I rode bulls for 14 years also.
Oh, dear.
And rodeo, like I say, roping was our main deal, but I rode bulls for about 14 years. I got hurt really bad in 1976, but I still rode for a couple of years after that, and then finally got into a point where I'm like, all right, you need to start making a living. You need to do something. So
So you're in high school then?
No, when I was riding bulls, I started riding bulls when I was 13. Got too big to ride racehorses, so I just went to ride bulls. And I'd always rode steers, in the junior rodeos or whatever. But I had left home when I was 13, and I was working on a ranch with there was a bunch of us boys out there, but one of them was become a good friend of mine. And we had talked each other into entering the bull riding over the 4th of July there in Grants, New Mexico. And we did. And so I wound up getting on a riding Saturday afternoon performance. My friend, he drew up in the slack for Saturday night slack. And he's like, no, I'm going to draw out. He said, I want to go to the dance. And I'm like, Bull, he said, if one of us ride, we both got to ride. And so I finally shamed him into getting on. I got drawn a little black bull that's terrible in the chute. I was winning the round, and then Robert rode that night and drew the same blasted bull, and then he beat me by 2 points. So I won. He won first. I won second. So yeah, that was a fun deal. That was a fun time. I had a lot of fun. And the man I worked for there, Bob Lee, he was the guy who gave me the incentive to be a better horseman. I mean, he trained cutting horses there at the ranch. Of course, that ranch was 460 sections, really big ranch, and so he trained cutting horses. I mean, every time we'd push cattle into a place and brand calves or whatever, I mean, we'd always work some horses or whatever in the cutting or on the cows or whatever. And so it just inspired me how good his horses were. And because I'd been around, roping horses and race horses, and so yes, I just hadn't been around good horses, but they just hadn't been trained much,
Right.
And that's where
they were functional.
Yeah, they were very functional to what we did on them, but as far as being light in the bridle or turn around like you wanted to or whatever, they just weren't, and Bob's horses were like, well, you just move your hand an inch one way or the other. Them horses were definitely, going someplace, and wherever you guided them, or your feet. And so he was the one who inspired me to really, really try to learn the horsemanship deal. I was 13 years old at that time. And so I showed cutters for a while, and then I got busy making a living, making my own way. Then I finally was able to buy my first ranch in 1996, I guess it was. I'd kind of, because like I said, I'd left my dad and was just kind of working, doing everything, training horses or breaking colts, a lot of colts and such. But then kind of got things going, some couple of businesses, buying cattle for order buyer, and then buying cattle for myself, and then had a trucking business also, and then a dozer business. And with all those things, I mean, it was good enough that I finally got enough money to buy my first ranch. And so I bought my first ranch in 1996, and then sold it in a few years. Moved to Colorado, bought another ranch in Colorado, which was the old Flying A Ranch, with Gene Autry's old ranch, and bought it. And I still wasn't that much into showing horses. I had always really tried to get into a horse's mind and learn what makes them function, and how to show them what I wanted them to do rather than trying to make them, and that's, to me, that's a big part, is trying to make a horse understand. And sometimes you get too fast and you'll pass his understanding level, so you need to back up and let that horse start comprehending just slow enough. I mean, it might just be just a short step, like turnarounds or whatever, just a little step, and then walk him out of it, and then a little bit, another one, and next thing you know, he's kind of figured it out, and so then you can, start asking him to go ahead and well, not turn around fast, but just he starts understanding, he starts to learn how to place his feet. Due
to where you quit him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard another trainer the other day say, he put it in good words. He said, oftentimes people move the finish line. They keep moving that finish line. The horse never knew where to search first.
Right.
And you can move that finish line, but they have to know where the first finish line is.
Right. Yes.
And for instance, turn around, if you want him to turn and he's never turned, he turns one step. As soon as he does, you kick him again for two more, and then the horse is unclear about what you were after, maybe.
Well, and the thing is, you kick him on the outside, what's that going to make him do? It's going to make him get stiff on the outside.
Yes.
And he gets to where they don't want to go into it, because they're like, okay, you're going to kick me on this outside. And so what I want to do is move them around there and let them stay soft, let them learn how to move their feet, and then encourage a little bit of more speed or whatever. But, it takes time, and the main thing is just don't get ahead of their thought process or their understanding. And and that's what happens a lot. People get ahead of a horse's understanding, and then it's like either you've got to force them to do it, or they'll get to where they really regret you being on them. They just
So do you feel like your horsemanship, I know you said the cutting horse trainer kind of started you off in it. Who are some other people, or was it the horse, just the interaction with the horse that had a lot of influence on you?
It was just the horse, Of course, I've never, other than Bob Lee when I was 13, rode with him, because, we was working on this big, he was a foreman on that big ranch. But other than that, there's nobody in particular that I have ever rode with. I have watched everybody. Boyd Rice has been a big influence in all my horsemanship. Jay McLaughlin, he and I are good friends, and Boyd and I are good friends. But yes, they've all been a big inspiration to me as to what to do, how to improve it, or whatever. And if I've got any questions, I could, just, hey, what do I do about this, And so they've always been good. And all those guys are really, really good about, if they've got knowledge to help you, they're more than happy to share it.
Yes, that's what I've ran into mostly in the horse world.
Yep.
People are more than happy to help out. You just got to ask questions and be willing to have an open mind and a thick skin.
Yes.
I was told that a long time ago. Two things to remember in life: open mind and a thick skin.
Yeah.
Will take you far.
Yeah.
And it made a lot more sense in the horse industry. It was told outside of the horse industry for me in the fitness, but now you can apply it to the horse industry, and it really makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So you're in Colorado now. You were in Colorado when you stopped right there, and so where from there? Where do you go from there?
Well, in Colorado, the ranch I had up there run about 550 mother cows on it and such, and then I changed my breeding program, because I still had about 15 brood mares there when I moved from New Mexico to Colorado. Then I had gotten a Doca Dynamite horse that was given to me because he bucked so bad and such, and your horse really made a good horse. He'd always kind of had a little bit of hump in his back, but really made a good horse. Actually, he went to the NFR in the head and for 2 or 3 different years. The horse really made a really good horse. But and I really liked the way that horse felt. A lot of my mares had a lot of running blood in them, and it was like Leo, Hard Twist, a lot of the old running bloodlines, that horses that became really good performance horses too. You know, 3 bars and such, and so I changed my program. I went and bought a Paddy's Irish Whiskey stud at John Scott's, the last horse sale that he had in Billings, Montana, and bought a Docket Dynamite stud horse and a couple of mares or fillies, and brought them home. Started changing my horse program considerably, and I had seen some Rain cow horse that interested me, and I thought, you know, that's what we do.
I do that every day.
Yeah, you know, and then the Versatility Ranch horse was just getting started right at that time, and looked like a really interesting competition. So that's what we geared ourselves for, was the Versatility Rain cow horse, and then the Versatility Ranch horse, and started there. The Smart Whiskey Doc. He's probably the one that put me on the map. I bought him as a yearling at John Scott's sale. And then the Docket Dynamite stud also was just as accomplished as Smart Whiskey Doc. But so I tell you what, the first cow horse deal I showed in.
Where was this at?
It was in Pueblo, Colorado.
Yep. Hackamore?
Yep. All right. I didn't know nothing about it. I won the whole weekend deal overall, you know, and it was the first day we showed down the fence and the stuff, and my wife at that time, Holly, we only lived about 40 miles from Pueblo. We was going home that afternoon. I'm like, wonder what those cones mean that are in the arena. But we just got lucky where we stayed within the criteria of the cones, and then like taking cattle down the fence, the center cone or whatever, and she said, well, I don't know the rule, but we had a rule book, so she read the rule book. She said, well, you're supposed to, on your turn, you're supposed to go past the center cone and don't go into the cones on the end, and I'm like, damn, well, we got lucky. And then on the reining part, you know, as far as the stops and stuff, you got to go, and I can't remember the pattern on that particular show, but if it was run to the end past the end cone or on the outside do roll, but I'm sure it was run to the end. But yeah, we just got lucky and went past the cone. Yeah. Had no idea, you know what I mean? But won the overall weekend. I was like, okay, this is easy. Yeah. It just got tougher from there.
It does, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. Then you start putting stipulations and everything into it, or then you start looking at the damn marker, and it puts all the pressure on you, and everything goes to pieces. But
that's hilarious.
Yeah. But it was pretty funny. But no, you know, just didn't know, learn the patterns. You know, remembering the patterns was a big deal for me back then. You know, 'cause just like pressure and everything else. But no, it turned into a good deal, and that was year 2000 was when I went to start show horses. So I've been, other than the cutting world, which is nothing like Rain cow horse, other than there is the cutting part in the open bridle or the bridle competition, you know. But as far as the reining and the down the fence and everything, yes, that was all completely new to me, you know, as far as doing it on a pattern. So we just showed Versatility mostly right then, done very, very well. They didn't have a world show for Versatility, just High Point Horse of the Year, and I think won the High Point Horse of the Year for 4 years on a couple of different horses, and then I was still an amateur, and I was over 50, so I entered the Bear Select Cow Horse, won it, and so then I started doing clinics and such as that, and so I turned in my amateur card, and then started. I didn't start training outside horses till, because I had so many of my own outside horses, until I moved to Texas in 2013.
Is that right?
Yeah, I could. Everything before then was all my own horses. You know, but we had in Colorado about 250 head of horses up there at that time. You know, and
Now, did you have help? What did you have for help and
it
stuff?
was not much. I had
Not
some
much.
boys come in there and help me sometimes when we starting a bunch of the colts or whatever, and so it just got to where, boy, I just covered up with horses and probably wasted more potentially good horses than most people get to see. You know, 'cause we had some really, really nice colts, but you know, we ran them out on the range, whereas you know, it wasn't really cost prohibitive as far as having to feed them all or whatever. But the colts, when we weaned them, we'd usually wean about 30 colts in the fall, yeah, it was an interesting time. Really was. It was an interesting time. But then we just kept showing the versatility and the cow horse, and then my wife had me enter a Project Cowboy deal that they had in 2010 in Fort Worth. Actually, Patty Colbert, the lady who started the Mustang Heritage, was the lady who started that deal.
Okay.
And it was a competition where they had just a whole bunch of different stuff to do on your horses. They would, and there was 176 entries into it.
How many?
176, and so it was a big. Dan James, he was in it. First time I met Dan James. You know, Mozon McKibbin, Ben Baldus was in it. Actually, and who else is? I mean, so many people who have went on, and they're doing a lot of stuff right now. And I remember Dan. He was just he was straight fresh out of Australia, you know. And but I did the American deal with him here, where he had a stint there at the American competition in Fort Worth, and he did his freestyle deal with his gray horse, and they had some riders riding outside, and he had me come and help him do that. And I asked him, because I thought it was him, but didn't know for sure. I said, we met at Project Cowboy, didn't he? He said, yep, that's where we met first time. I was like, wow, that has been a lot of years ago. But so anyway, did the Project Cowboy. For my final round, I had a black mare that was by Smart Whiskey Doc, and went back to some of the first horses I raised, Black Hope Stick, and it was her name. For my final freestyle deal, I did a rein cow horse bridleless on her, and the crowd just loved it, you know, and then so. And the mare was good. I mean, she was really, really good. And I'd only been riding her 3 weeks without a bridle, but she just so cowy and very maneuverable. And then they had me come to Road to the Horse to do a demonstration, do the same thing at Road to the Horse on the little black mare, working the cow without a bridle, taking it down the fence, circling it. And I didn't have a string on her either, you know, and she just that attentive. And circle it. Then after I'd circle it, then I'd let the cow get out there, then run up there and rope it and
Bridleless.
Bridleless. Yep. And but then she went on. She won that mare. I think she won 3 world titles, maybe 4. She's been a very, very good mare, and so she's a brood mare at home now. After the Project Cowboy deal, they had asked me to come to Road to the Horse at one time, and I was just too busy. I just, you know, or it just wasn't appealing to me, I guess, in a sense. And then and it was dropped, and then I talked to Ernie King one day. I thought, as my deal was slowing down, I kind of quit showing. I thought, it'd be fun to judge that, you know. And so I called Ernie King and said, hey, what about getting on a judging deal, Road to the Horse? And he said, all right. He said, yeah, let me think about it a little bit. And so he called me back in about an hour, and said, hey, he said, what about you just participating? And I'm like, man, I'm a little old, you know. And so he said, yeah, he said, think about it. So I thought about it. Well, I said, yeah, heck, why not? You know, it's just one horse. It's not like I've got to break 6 or 7 of them one day and hour and a half a day. Shoot, yeah. And so I agreed to do it. Then, of course, that COVID-19 came, and then they deferred it off for a year, and then we come back and got lucky enough to do good in the first one, and then I was surprised that they asked me to come back twice in a row, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had a lot of fun with that? I mean, really enjoyed that?
It was really a lot of fun. You know, really.
Yeah.
And I was worried because, you know, I was raised out on the ranches way out in the middle of no place. And then the Horse Show World, rodeoing was one thing. It was a timed event. You never had time to really stop and think about getting nervous. I mean, you back in the box, and yeah, you're nervous or worried about getting out, but just didn't think about it. We're in a horse show, you know, raining or whatever. You have enough time to do too much thinking in there sometimes, you know. And so I was a little bit worried about starting a colt in front of a big audience, and shoot, you know, when you shut the gate behind you and you start that colt,
you're in your element.
That's all you see. I mean,
yeah.
it's just about starting the horse, and which made it fun. I mean, it really, I had a blast, and it really did. I really enjoyed it. It was a blast, and the yellow horse has turned out to really he's making a really good horse. That the yellow horse I had the first year.
Yeah. So, as far as the show world, like you showed in the Versatility.
Yes.
And so, what of the events? Name some of the events that you're going to show in the Versatility, and then of those events, what do you like the most? Probably the cow, obviously.
Right.
That's a no-brainer. And what do you which event is least desirable, and how does that work for you?
Well, it's reason they started the Versatility. I'll put a little history into it. Was because all the horses are getting so specialized. You know, in AQHA. I mean, Western pleasure horses, cutters, and of course the Rain cow horse is still, in my opinion, the best horse there is. And it probably the most difficult to train, I would say, because of everything you've got to do. I mean, you got to teach them to work a cow, you got to teach them to follow a cow, and just there's so much to it. And then in the reining and everything. But there's 6. So what they wanted to do was bring back the old type quarter horses, the horses that were, them guys would go to a show and they'd show them in the cow horse, the reining, the pleasure, and the halter, you know. And so they wanted to try to keep people creating the Versatility quarter horse. And so that's why they started that program or that competition. But so in it is the competitions or the classes in the Versatility are, you've got your cow horse, you've got your cutting, and then you've got your reining. Okay, then you've got your trail horse, and then you've got your ranch riding, and then you've got your conformation.
Okay.
And which is unique because to find a horse that really built right and looks good, that can do all that stuff and has a good enough mind, it's not as easy as you'd think it is, you know. And so it made it an interesting class. Smart Whiskey Doc was the perfect horse for it. He could do any and all of them, and plus his mind would come down enough to where you do ranch riding and trail, he was just quiet there, or enough speed and cow in him to go down the fence or in the cutting pen. He would just, you know, drop your hand and work a cow. He was just a special horse, actually.
And I assume you do a lot of outside work on all your horses.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah, that's really good for them, make them rounded. I like the Versatility stuff because I think, like in some of the trail and of course in the reining, your horse has to be pretty broke to do a lot of that.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
And
a lot of people don't think so. You sit in the stand, you're like, oh,
yes.
that's just, I mean, or the ranch riding. You know,
yes,
the
underrated.
The transitions to win it. Now, I mean, you go out there and do it.
Yes.
But to win it, because the judges are looking at every footstep your horse makes, because they need something to change the difference between
They
one
do.
horse and the other. So they're having to nitpick, actually, you know. And so it's really important that your transitions are really soft and collected, and also, but sitting in the stand, you're like, oh wow, man, that looks so easy. And I fell into the same deal. I watched the first versatility show that was shown in Denver, Colorado. I went and watched it, and I'm like, oh, that's just, this is, then you get out there and do it, and then you have to do it on one horse and through 6 classes. Yeah, it changes the whole deal up quite a bit.
Yeah, and they measure. There's measurements. It's like, can you lope your horse down through there and stop your heel right over the end of the pole?
Right.
To side pass. And everybody said, well, yeah, I can do that. But when it has to be in an area that big.
That big, where you finally come to that last stop.
That's right.
Yeah, and And Dr. Hurd, he was one of the instigators in the Versatility Ranch. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. He was a past AQHA president, and then been a judge forever and ever. And then he come up with this pattern. It was just for versatility. And he said, how you like that pattern? Or he had us show it at a show in Denver. And it was run down there, stop your horse on the center marker. And so if you run down there and your horse slides, you have to, because to be right, they wanted you to be right there.
Right there.
Don't back up.
Yes.
Don't back up to the center marker.
Yes.
Stop your horse and be at the center marker when he stops.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, that was terrible.
It
you know?
is.
And I told him after the show, I said, your deal sucks, Doc. I said, it really does. I said, you need to put a backup right there.
Yeah.
And so he did change it to where you run it, because it's an easy pattern after that. But that first maneuver to stop on the center line,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, you know. But and the trail, I mean, it's just a lot of different stuff, you know, and smoothness of your horse and your horses, and learning how to collect your horse, like for lope overs. So many people will just drop their horse and let them horses hollow out over a lope over, versus lope them horses up there, really, really, really collect them and let them horses collect over that lope over, their cadence. And then actually you can, we've all gone to a log and we see that the stride of that horse is going to be right on top of the log, And so, and if you don't have that collection to where you can slow that horse's stride down, you're screwed, and so if you've got where you can lope your horse up there and you can shorten that stride and slow it down, okay, short step him, then his cadence comes out perfect for that lope over, and so it is but you want that horse to be soft and everything to come to you, and so which is a really, really a big deal, and it helps in so many different areas too, to have that on your horse to where you can run them down there and just from your large fast circles to your small slow circles. Of course, you teach a horse a move there versus teaching him how to really come to your hands, because I use my feet mostly when I'm on the circles, but on a situation where I'm loping into logs, I'm just going to pretty much use my hand and keep the hip pushed into where they don't fall out of lead. A lot of times that when they do it downward, or when they slow down their stride. But it's really important to have that on your horse into just a lot of disciplines where you can run your horse down and just pick him up, and he just comes to you soft and short stride him and do whatever you want to do, especially for your lope overs,
Yes. Yeah, a lot of people that we have in our barn, they struggle with lope overs, and they don't like doing them.
Yep.
They really don't like doing them. But now, do you judge any? Are you
No,
carded?
I don't.
You don't? Okay.
My attention span, and I know it, is I would be out thinking of something else. And I have judged, quite a few shows, not AQHA shows, but I have judged quite a few shows, and I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
And to judge the ranch riding, 200 horses in a class doing the same pattern, and it's like, in no way.
Yeah.
Because I'm very conscientious about it being completely right, doing it very correct. And I'm like, there's no way I can be that precise in that many horses. And so I just, I'll just leave it to the other guys.
And the numbers at the shows are so big right now. The reining derby's going on right now. I seen a little bit of it online yesterday, and I mean, I think in the non-pro, I think it was 3 sections possibly.
Wow.
The first round. I mean, just 3 sections, and I'm like, man. And those judges have to sit there and be so consistent. And that would be tough.
It would be tough.
That would be very tough.
And the only good thing about it is now with a number system like it is, you know, I mean, the half point, whatever. And so they've got a way to break it up in their mind to some extent, except for like the ranch riding, it's kind of the same, but kind of not. So it's, you know, it just makes it, the ranch riding would be, for me, a lot tougher to judge than like the reining or something like that. And
So what do you think in your years of showing and just working with horses, as far as in the show pen, what do you think keeps people from winning the most? Not, you know, I try to talk to a lot of my clients on, don't see what you can really make better yet as far as plussing, but what's keeping you from winning? Normally there's something on that box that's always low.
Well, it's body control, softness in your horse. I mean, and that's what most all of my clinics are on, is body control and softness. Because if you can do with your horse at any given time and know he's going to come right to you, you can have him riding, because them horses will be, because you teach them to do the maneuvers, but they still have to listen to you. I mean, you know, they've got to be in your hands. And so, you know, we've all shown horses that, like, okay, we don't have him as broke as we really like him. He's a little bit tight, he's a little stiff, and it's usually stiffness or a little bit pushy here, one place or another. And so we try to get around that best we can. But when we finally, and so it'll have you just make you a little bit nervous. I don't get nervous at all on a horse that I'm very confident in because he's broke really, really good. I mean, he'll do all the maneuvers if I just ride him right. But then them horses that just aren't quite there, they make me a little bit more nervous, because it's like, okay, boy, I need to really concentrate getting him through this part of the deal. And so for me, it is just, and if you ride a horse that you've got complete confidence in it, that anytime you pick him up, he's going to come to you, or you ask him to move his body over or pick his shoulder up with your foot or with your bridle rein or whatever, that he's going to comply. And it's like, wow, okay, just go do it.
You just have to remember your pattern and pilot correctly.
Yep.
So what's your biggest moment, most favorite memory so far in the horse industry?
Wow.
What would you say?
You know, it actually goes back to probably winning the world in the Bear Select after 50 years old.
50?
That was my first world title after 50.
Now, is that the buckle you have on?
No, this one here is the first Versatility one I won.
Okay.
And I don't want everybody to know how old I am, because that was in 2006. I won that, and I was. You have to be over 50 years old, and but that was because that's what you pushed for, and that was very meaningful, but they all have a special place in you. It really does. But like this one here was the first Versatility World show that I won. It wasn't the inaugural one because Chance O'Neill won it on Six's pick, and I lost it because in the trail course, back then they would always have you drop your bridle and then pick up all your horse's feet. All right, and so they changed it that year. They said pick up all your horse's feet, then drop your bridle. We had done it 1,000 times the other way, and so I got off, picked up Whiskey's feet, and he started on that last foot. I feel he's starting to get a little bit antsy. He's wanting to move. So, boy, I just stepped around there and put my foot in the stirrup and just stepped on him. Forgot to drop my bridle.
Forgot to drop your bridle. Yeah.
And had a perfect run all the way through it. And I come out back there, and I was feeling pretty good. You know, I had to go was good. And I had won the cow class and had done extreme. Well, I was winning it all really easy. And then Bill James, an old friend of mine, come back and said, hey, you forgot to drop your damn bridle, Mike. And I'm like, no. I'm thinking, yes, I did. I damn sure did. And so they zeroed the whole class. I think now they just zeroed that portion of it now, but back then they zeroed the whole class. And so, man, that put me way down there. And but we wound up coming. I was sitting ninth place, and we had the confirmation and the reining to do, and we won the reining. And I can't remember if we were first or second in confirmation, but I wound up second overall.
Second?
Yeah.
All due to the bridle.
My horse sure. Next time he come out there to shoe our horses on that last foot, he with a magic marker, drop your bridle.
Yeah. And that all happens to us. You know, this last Mother's Day, we were at a show in Southwest Missouri, and I went in the ranch cutting, and I took a little dual ray mare that I had not shown her on a cow yet. Mm. And I went in, and the cows were rerunning. They were terrible.
Right.
They were all running over everybody.
Right.
And I told my wife, I'm going to have to be David Copperfield. Yeah. And I went in, and I pulled it off and walked out. And on the way walking out, I was cooling my horse down, and she said, hey, it's Mother's Day, and just remember that when I tell you this next thing. And I was like, what? Wasn't that good? And I mean, I'm figuring I'm either winning it or second. Mm-hmm. And she's like, just remember, just be very patient with me. And I said, what? She said, your tail was up. And she said, I seen it when you were going across the line. And I was like, oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
And we were in the all-around. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of points going into it. And the only reason I got in that class and put that horse in again was the all-around.
Yeah, good points, yeah.
And I said, let me just ride for a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
But
that happened to me one time. In a ranch riding class, because you can't see it, and you got all that stuff on your mind. Yeah. And so I got to where when I get on my horse, I take the tail down right then. That way I do not have, it's not something that's nagging at me. Okay, yes. What did I forget? Yeah. I take it down.
So, advice for someone young getting in the industry, wanting to be a trainer or be active in the horse industry, what's a piece of advice you could give them? One of the best pieces of advice.
Well, don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
No, not really. Because I mean, you've got to have a work ethic. Mm-hmm. I mean, because training horses is not. I mean, it is fun and to be able to understand horses and communicate with them in order to get them trained is fabulous, but it's a lot of work. I mean, it's definitely a lot of work, but the main thing is and there's so much knowledge out there today, mm-hmm. and it's so good to have the opportunity to ride with somebody. Because I never did. And mm-hmm. so I spent a lot of years trying to figure it all out by myself. Whereas if I'd have gone and rode with somebody, it would have cut my deal down really a lot faster.
I relate exactly.
Yep.
It's the same thing. And horses have taught me a lot too, but I work for also one cutting trainer. Mm-hmm. And for a couple of years, and that's about it.
Right.
And then the rest of it was just trying to eat and feed my mouth.
Right.
Yep. Because when someone books a horse with you at that point in time, I know you raised a lot of your own, but when they book it, you don't even ask what it is.
Right.
You take it. I think I was charging $300 a month when I first started, and it's crazy. But those horses are what teach you things.
Oh, completely. I mean, and because, I'm terrible. I even go pick up them old crazy horses at the sale barn just to keep me sharp, because the challenge. I mean, I raised some really, really nice horses. They're not challenging. They just, and so I go buy some of them sale barn horses just to like, okay, it's going to, boy, I mean, like, I'm thinking, why in the world are you doing that to yourself?
Yes.
But it is the challenge to take a bad horse and make a good horse out of him. That is so rewarding to me. And in my theory, almost every horse can become a good horse.
Yes.
May not be the superstar or whatever, but some just don't have the athletic ability. But in my opinion, every horse can be a good horse. And if you just get in, understand them, and go about getting into their mind and showing them what you want. Some of them are a little bit tougher, but
yes,
just do it, you know.
So what's a day in the life now
For me?
For Mike, like, yeah.
Well, I just sold my place in Bowie, and so I'm looking for a new place to buy.
Okay.
You know, I'm downsizing considerably. I still have my cattle ranch in New Mexico. We run about 500 mother cows out there.
Okay.
And but I'm looking for a place. And that's the thing about it is I really don't know where I want to go. So I'm just kind of looking all over. Just want to find a little old place with 5-6 stalls and some turnouts and such as that, and looking to do more clinics. You know,
Okay.
We haven't pushed the clinics much at all, but I'm just looking to do more clinics and travel. It's so fun to meet new horses and new people. You know, and but would like to travel. Like to travel abroad, do some clinics abroad if I could. You know.
Okay.
But I just haven't. I haven't worked at getting that done yet.
So how does someone go about finding you? Do you have any social media or anything?
I do. Mike Major Horsemanship is a website. My daughter kind of runs it, daughter and a friend of mine. But Mike Major Horsemanship is where you can find me.
Okay. And no Facebook, YouTube, or anything like that right now?
I've got Mike Major Facebook, and actually the Mike Major Horsemanship has a Facebook also.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I sure appreciate you sitting down here with me. I was so glad. I looked up in the top in the Coliseum, and I asked my wife. I said, "I think that's Mike Major." and you were sitting up there, and then I caught you going to get ice cream.
Right.
And I had just went over there, so I was eyeballing the ice cream. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go hit him up and see how busy he is. But I appreciate you sitting down with me. Maybe sometime we can meet again. And if you're ever in Southwest Missouri, maybe we have you out sometime for a clinic or something like that.
I appreciate it.
And share some knowledge. I'd love to hear more from you and interact with you more with horses.
Well, I would completely, Jason. I appreciate asking me to come on and do a podcast with you. This is fun, and same thing. When I find out where I land, shoot, come visit, bring your horses.
I would love to, but anyway, we want to thank Mike for coming on, and you guys know where to find him, MikeMajor.horsemanship.com, and I should put some links in there on that also so people can find you, but I appreciate it, and we will talk to you later. Bye.